Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jonathan. I'm a third year PhD student at the University of Waterloo. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to find your next research topic for your upcoming paper. As a PhD student, my primary job is to be on the lookout for cool and exciting research ideas, but when I first started the program, I wasn't entirely sure how to go about this task. Thinking of an idea that's completely new and innovative and something that nobody else has thought of in the world is definitely not easy. And so in this video, I want to share with you guys some tips that I've developed over the past few years of my PhD program that have helped me generate some new ideas. If you're just starting your master's or PhD program in September, I definitely think that these tips will help you out in the coming semester. My first tip is to create an account on SSRN. SSRN stands for Social Sciences Research Network, and this website is basically an online database where professors and researchers from across the world can upload their working papers. A working paper is a paper that hasn't been officially published in a journal yet. It's kind of in its development stage, and so a lot of researchers will post their working papers online, which will invite other researchers to take a look through their paper and provide constructive criticism. One of the great things about SSRN is that it's a great way for you to become more familiar with new and exciting research that people are developing from across the world. Because all these papers are working papers, these are all papers that are trying to push the boundary of their discipline. What's great about SSRN is that you can actually browse through all these working papers, and it gives you a good idea of what type of research is considered new and innovative. I would highly recommend that you create an account on SSRN and spend some time every single day going through the working papers within the area that you're interested in and see if any of those papers spark any sort of inspiration for your next research idea. One pretty cool hack is that you can actually set up a subscription within SSRN in which SSRN will actually send you emails throughout the week giving you updates on what are the new and exciting papers that are being uploaded to the site. What's great about this subscription is that it'll give you automatic notifications every week, and in those emails you can see the title of the paper, who it's published by, and also give you an abstract of the paper so you can take a quick read just through the abstract to see if the paper resonates with you. If you are interested in the paper, you can click on the link and then it'll take you directly to SSRN and you can read through the entire paper that was uploaded by the researcher. If you didn't think the abstract was interesting, then you can just put the email into your deleted folder and then just wait for the next email from SSRN. You can also customize your SSRN subscription to specific areas of research. So because my PhD is in accounting, I subscribe to the Accounting Research Network. And what's great is that many universities do have a paid subscription where they'll let their students get free access to the subscription fees. So definitely check with your program director or faculty advisor to see if you can also get a free subscription as well. As of right now, I probably get 2 to 3 emails from SSRN every single week, and it doesn't take that long to kind of skim through those emails and go through the abstracts. And there have been many times where a paper that was sent to me through this notification was really interesting. I'll take a look into it, then I'll read the full paper, and it'll help generate some potential research ideas. And this is something that I wouldn't have been able to do if I didn't get those email notifications. So this is a very quick thing to set up before the semester. And as long as you keep reading up on these emails throughout your program, I think it will be a great source of information to see what's new in the research world, and hopefully it'll inspire you to think of your own research topic. My second tip is to use your university library database. One of the cool things about being a master's or PhD student is that many universities are already subscribed to the top academic journals, and you can access these journals for free through the university library database. What's great about these subscriptions is that you can search up the journal that you're interested in and then go directly to the journal website, look at the different issues that have been published, and you'll have full access to many of the papers within the journal. What's great about this is that these subscriptions are pretty expensive, and without the subscription, it can definitely cost a lot of money to read a single paper. What I would recommend you do is look up maybe the top 5 journals within your discipline, and then look up those journals using the university library database, and then go through some of the most recent issues and see the type of papers that are being published at these top journals. I think it's a good way to give you an indication of what top research looks like, the type of topics that these journals are looking for, and definitely it's a great way for you to be more familiar with the literature and see what type of ideas are exciting to you. What I found in my PhD program is that I use the university library system every single day. Whenever I have a particular paper that I want to search up and read, I just input it into the website. It comes up to me and I can find an online version for free. And it's pretty much one of the best ways to get access to all these papers without paying a single penny. My third recommendation is to actually use Google Scholar. Now, I think Google Scholar is a great way to be introduced to a particular new area if you didn't have any experience with it before. What Google Scholar does is that you can obviously search up certain key terms and it'll actually output papers that have been highly cited within the literature. So for example, if there's a particular area that I'm interested in, let's say voluntary disclosure, I never looked into voluntary disclosure before and I don't really know where to start, I would simply type in voluntary disclosure into Google Scholar and it'll just populate some of the, big key readings within the literature just because of the huge amount of citations that the paper gets. What I typically do is that if I'm looking into a specific topic, I'll search it up on Google Scholar first, and then I'll find the name of the paper, and then I'll take the name of the paper and I'll use it within the university library system just so I can access that paper for free. I know a lot of people use Google Scholar to start off their research, and so definitely use this amazing resource. My fourth tip is to look at conference papers. Depending on what type of research you do, there are usually conferences that are held every single year where researchers and professors can present their working papers to an audience and essentially get constructive feedback, generate some interesting discussion, and it's a great way for you to not only network with other people, but it's also a great way for you to think of new research ideas because the type of papers that are being presented at these conferences are usually top-notch, depending on the conference, but they're also usually new and innovative ideas. And so if you do get a chance to go to a conference, then definitely take advantage of that opportunity. Sometimes conferences can definitely be really expensive, especially if they're not in the country that you're doing your PhD in or master's in. And so that may require some additional funding. So if you do get the opportunity to go, I highly recommend it. But sometimes if you can't afford going to these conferences, a lot of these conferences now have virtual sessions. And so maybe just paying a registration fee and then attending the virtual session is a good alternative. And also sometimes these conferences post the papers that are presented in the conference online. And so maybe you don't get to hear the speaker present the paper live, but at least you have access to that conference paper afterwards. And so I definitely recommend that if there was a particular stream of research that you were interested in that was being discussed at a particular conference, definitely look up that paper and take a read through. I actually attended the AAA virtual conference just last week. I had an opportunity to present my paper virtually, but when I wasn't presenting my paper, I did attend many sessions in the conference. I got to meet other researchers, listen to their cool research ideas, and when they were presenting their research, I was simply taking notes on their paper, and then if I ever sparked some sort of potential idea out of my head based on what was being presented, I would just write it down in a notepad on the side. And so attending these conferences, listening to other people talk about their research can also be a great way for you to think of something of your own. Okay, tip number 5 is to read the daily news. Sometimes I realize that when I'm in school, I'm so focused on my coursework and being a student that I don't read the news, and sometimes I just don't think about what's going on in the real world. And if you're doing research, sometimes your research idea can come from what's going on in the real world, especially as an accounting PhD student. Anything that happens with, stocks, capital markets, new regulations that might be introduced by standard setters. These are all things that are happening outside of the school environment. I can only learn about these things if I read the daily news. So a habit that I started to do recently is that I actually have a subscription to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. Luckily, this subscription is through my local public library, but because I have these subscriptions, I simply just read the Wall Street Journal every single morning for 30 minutes to an hour. There are certain pages on the Wall Street Journal that resonate a little bit more with me, specifically the business section, the CFO journal, and I'll just kind of skim through those articles and see if anything is accounting related or if anything might generate a potential new idea. I think reading the daily news is pretty interesting because obviously a lot of things are happening in our crazy world. And who knows, one of those articles can definitely lead to a potential research idea. If you don't have free access through your local public library, I do know that sometimes universities might have subscriptions to these services as well. So definitely check with your university before paying for these subscriptions, because I definitely know that the Wall Street Journal can be pretty expensive, especially for a student. My sixth tip is to look at the bibliography section of the papers that you're reading in class. So if you're a master's or PhD student, you might have a couple classes that require you to read papers every single week. And a great way to dive a little deeper into an area that interests you is to look into the bibliography section of one of those papers that you were assigned to, and then see what kind of papers were referenced by that author. And then you can dive into those papers to get more background information on the area that you're interested in. This is definitely a technique that I use sometimes, where if I read a paper that's really interesting to me, I'll kind of read the background papers that were associated with that paper. And then overall, it's kind of like a spider web where you just keep getting deeper and deeper into the literature, and you help expand your knowledge. Papers in the bibliography are usually pretty good papers, because if the author is referencing them, that means that the author thinks that they're useful for their paper. And so if it's useful to the author, it's probably going to be useful to you as well. And so this is definitely a great way to kind of expand your network and dig a little deeper into a particular literature that you're interested in. My seventh tip is to look at literature reviews. Now, literature reviews are special types of papers where the author will essentially write a review on that particular literature. So the author will typically read through a whole bunch of papers within a certain stream of research, and they will typically kind of discuss, the type of research that has been done in the past. And then there's usually a section in that paper for potential new research ideas that could be done in that field of research. Literature reviews are pretty common in accounting. I'm not quite sure if they're as common in other streams of research, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are. But usually it's a great place for you, especially if you're new to the research. It's a great place for you to start. Pick up a literature review, read through it, and then through that literature review, look at the papers that the author cited, and then you can potentially also read those papers as well to develop a better understanding of what's going on. Literature reviews are typically longer in my opinion, and personally I feel like it's a bit of a drier read, and so I don't really read them for fun. I mostly read them to make sure that I'm kind of looking at the papers that I should be looking at if I'm interested in a certain area. My last recommendation is to just talk with people, whether that's talking with your professors, talking with other PhD students. I think just talking about research, exchanging ideas, talking about what you think could be interesting, and bouncing those ideas off people can be a great way for you to develop your next research idea. So for me, I actually have a weekly meeting with two of my PhD friends in the program, and pretty much for an hour on Friday morning, we just get on a call together and we just kind of pick one particular paper that we found really interesting during the week that we read, and we kind of just present that paper to each other. We talk about what's the purpose of the paper, its findings, why we think it's interesting, and then the most important part, we talk about what are some possible extensions that could come from that paper. And honestly, sometimes just by talking out loud, it helps you clear your head, and it helps you kind of think about what potential ideas could work. And then when you share it with the people, they will kind of give you their opinions on, okay, what do I think this is viable or not? Oh, maybe you can think about this. Oh, maybe you can think about that. So I think talking with other PhD students is really good, just because it's a super casual setting. You can pretty much talk about whatever you want from a research perspective. You don't have to worry about sounding dumb, and they're really easy to set up. And so that was definitely something that we started in the summer after our comprehensive exam that I found really helpful, and I definitely see us continuing this weekly chat as the school year starts in September. And another person you can talk to is definitely your faculty supervisor or your faculty advisor. Just kind of bouncing ideas off them again is a great way just to kind of see what their response is. Obviously, when you're talking to a professor, they are a lot more knowledgeable about the research than you are, and so there is a great resource for you to take advantage of. With that being said, those are my 8 tips to help you guys find your next research idea. I hope these tips are really helpful. I do use these tips every single day, and especially now that I'm trying to find my thesis topic, I do find them to be pretty helpful. I haven't found my thesis topic yet, but I have identified some certain areas where I may be able to do my thesis on. If you enjoyed this video, if you like these tips, if you want to continue to follow my PhD journey, then don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. September is right around the corner. I am going to be starting the 3rd year of my PhD program. Super excited to finally start the thesis stage of this program. It's definitely going to be a big change from just doing coursework in the first 2 years. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a really scary but really exciting journey. So if you guys want to be a part of that, then definitely subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.